What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters Allstar video, and in today's video we are going to be revisiting our Spotlight series as we go ahead and shine the spotlight this time on Angel of Paradise Honoka and go ahead and give you guys a full PVE breakdown. Is she going to be worth the investment? Is she going to be worth your purple invitations? We'll find out in today's video, but before we do, make sure if you're new here you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get into it. So first up, let's go ahead and take a look at the typing and the leadership ability. Now, Angel of Paradise Honoka is going to be a red attack type. This is going to make her very useful and very flexible for a lot of different team comps across PvE, and definitely going to be a combination that you like to see. When it comes to her leadership ability, Angel of Paradise Honoka is also going to increase Dead or Alive 6 fighters' attack by 45% and their power charge rate by 20%. This is going to mean that she is going to be very sought after as a leader for your Dead or Alive characters, especially in modes where you're going to need that extra power charge rate, specifically in things such as Immortals and Guild Raid. So when we take a look at the cores, which we'll move on to now, you're going to see right off the top that she's going to increase her burn attack damage by 30%, which is extremely good, and then she's also going to have an increase to her damage for her crits by 18%. Now, when we take a look at the rest of her cores, she is going to have a 20% power charge rate increase and an increase to her penetration by 256. Now, moving on to her exclusive cores, this character is going to be able to stun the target for 3 seconds upon attacking the target affected by Burn or Starlight on a cooldown of 7 seconds. This really is largely something that you can ignore in PvE outside of just specific instances. Then when we move on to her final core, she's going to increase her active skill damage dealt to targets affected by Burn or Starlight by 50% and gains 20% power when her combo count is 10 or above on a cooldown of 10 seconds. Overall, you can already tell that this character really only has one goal in mind, and that is to do a lot of damage. She's going to be able to increase her own damage output very well with her cores, and being the fact that she is also going to have that nice power gain, this character is going to be able to fire off her finishers, albeit those finishers are a little bit on the shorter end, very quickly, and that is going to help her out a lot in things such as Immortals. And then when we move on and talk about the exclusive core for Dead or Alive fighters, as we're all aware, this is a 70% chance to increase attack by 30% for 5 seconds upon landing an active skill, and decreasing damage received from an attack type, defense type, or balance type enemy by 30% for 5 seconds when attacked, on a cooldown of 5 seconds. This is a really good little core for the Dead or Alive characters. That 70% chance to increase your attack by 30% for 5 seconds upon landing an active skill is going to help them damage ramp very well, and then also being able to decrease their damage received from pretty much anything by 30% for 5 seconds when they're attacked on a very short cooldown is also going to mean a lot for her, being the fact that she is an attack type and therefore going to be a little bit more on the squishy end. So that is what we're looking at as far as the cores are concerned. Pretty good overall. As I had mentioned, this character really has one goal in mind, and that is to do a lot of damage. So let's go ahead and move over to the skills, and I do want to go ahead and preface this with the fact that yes, this character is not going to be, in my opinion, as strong as her SS variant. There's a couple of reasons as to why I say that is. The biggest reason is going to be the fact, of course, that she is not going to be an SS fighter. That is going to mean that she is going to lack the extra long awakening rotation, so over a long fight, such as in Guild Raid, she's not going to be able to fire off as much damage as quickly, and speaking of her speed, in comparison to her SS variant, it does seem as if this character is a little bit slower on her skill rotations than her SS version. I'm not entirely sure as to why that might be. I do know that this version does have slightly longer cooldowns than the SS variant, but keep that in mind, you guys. The SS version of this character is still going to be much stronger as far as overall damage output, but there are going to be major differences between the two that differentiate them enough to where both of these characters are going to have their niches and going to find their uses in PvE. Now, when we move over to the skills here, taking a look at the S1, this is going to be her best skill, but this is going to boast hyper armor as well as infernal flame, and this is also an interrupt. So a very good skill, definitely her best skill. This reminds me a lot of Paul Phoenix's S1 as well as the Mr. Karate S1, but it is an extremely fast skill and it can interrupt. So keep that in mind, you guys. This is a really good skill, and being that it does have hyper armor on that interrupt, that is going to come in handy quite often. Now on the S2, this is going to be used to increase her attack by 35% for 7 seconds, as well as giving her damage immunity for 4 seconds. Being the fact that this is not going to be damage immunity in the form of some sort of armor, this is going to mean that this cannot be removed by specific fighters that can remove those things. Something that doesn't necessarily come up much in PvE like we're talking about today, but do keep that in mind. And then moving on to the S3, this is going to be her source of starlight with radiant damage, and then she's also going to have a 70% chance to reset her cooldowns upon a successful attack on a cooldown of 15 seconds. That 70% chance to reset her cooldowns is very high, meaning that you're probably going to get that reset fairly often, so overall, really good stuff. Now, there is one other thing that we do need to talk about as far as this character is concerned, and that is going to be the effect on her finisher card. So if we go ahead and take a look here, as you'll see, on her 3PG finisher, she is going to increase critical rate by 5% and critical damage by 20% for 10 seconds when using it. This is a wonderful little perk, especially when you pair it with the newest Dead or Alive card set. This is going to make a big difference for her overall damage output, and is definitely going to mean that you're going to want this card, especially if you're wanting to use her in things such as Guild Raid or Immortals. This is going to be a must-have. And then finally, if we take a look at the stones, my recommendation for her is of course just going to be to go with the attack stones for the Dead or Alive 6 collaboration. There's really no reason to go for anything other than attack with this character, being the fact that she is going to be just an overall damage nuke. So that is going to be it for the kit. We're going to go ahead now and take a look at the skills more in depth, and then we'll go ahead and break her down across different PvE modes. So let's go ahead and get into it. Starting off taking a look at the skills, Angel of Paradise Honoka's best weapon without a doubt is going to be her S1, as it is going to offer her the most capabilities on her kit, being that it boasts burn, interrupt, hyper armor, off the ground capabilities, a full screen animation, and is also extremely fast on its startup. This is going to mean that not only can you use this offensively in most situations, but you're also going to be able to use this skill defensively to get Angel of Paradise Honoka out of bad situations, being the fact that you are going to have the ability to interrupt with it. Next up is going to be the S2, which is notably slower and easier to telegraph than the S1, but it also boasts some of the things that make the S1 very good, meaning that it is also going to be an interrupt, have a full screen animation. However, that is not something that you want to hang your hat on, as it is easy to telegraph, as I mentioned before. It is also going to be an off the ground, however, which definitely helps with your abilities to juggle and combo enemies. Rounding out Angel of Paradise Honoka's kit is going to be the S3. Now the S3 is going to be her source of starlight and is also going to be an off the ground, but this is going to be a much slower skill than the other two, and it is not very good at long ranges, so typically you are going to want to use this when you're at a mid or close range with this character. Otherwise, the chances of it connecting are very slim. Moving on to the finishers, the 3PG card is going to have an average length of 7 seconds, but also include increasing her critical rate by 5% and her critical damage by 20% for 10 seconds when using it. And finally, the core finisher is going to be a little bit shorter than the 3PG card finisher and is not going to have any effects that are going to be beneficial to Honoka, but it is going to come in at a 5-second animation length. Unsurprisingly, as a damage nuke, Angel of Paradise Honoka is going to be absolutely phenomenal when it comes to most any area in the game that is going to be general mobbing related. This is going to include things such as reviving Hell's Dungeon, as well as time attack. A couple of reasons as to why this is going to be the fact that she can one-tap most any mob with any of her skills. She's going to have absolutely fantastic XY axis, meaning that she's going to be able to group mobs very easily, so therefore therefore she's not really going to have to worry about missing a mob. So that is going to be a situation where you're definitely going to want to take a look at her in things such as time attack, where she's going to be extremely powerful in that regard. And when it comes to any of your basic bosses, being the fact that this character is going to hit as hard as she can, and also is going to boast double dots, really there's not much to say other than the fact that most any boss isn't going to survive her skills, much less a full awakening rotation from her. Ever since the inclusion of Absolute War in lieu of Infinite Battle, PVAI has become just that much more important, and thankfully Angel of Paradise Honoka is going to be an absolutely fantastic option for any PVAI mode. Really, because of her S1, you're going to be able to one-tap most things, and if not, then you're going to be able to get by with the fact that she has fantastic off-the-ground and combo ability, so there's really no gaps here. Against Immortals, Angel of Paradise Honoka is going to be able to shine based on the fact that she's going to have that awesome double dot combination of Starlight and Burn, but also the fact that she is going to just be a pure damage nuke, so therefore she's going to fit into any team that is going to be for more damage. However, there are a few downsides to her. The biggest one being the fact that she does lack this special signature tag, as well as the boss syndrome tag that you like to see with a lot of the popular leaders in this type of mode nowadays. So you are going to have to be a little bit more creative with the team comps that you're going to be using her with. Typically, if you have a Nightmare Geese, she's going to make a wonderful addition to a team with him because he is going to be able to buff attack types. But outside of that, she is also going to have an awesome leadership skill of her own that does lend itself quite nicely to this mode, so if you were to want to use her as the de facto leader for a Dead or Alive based team in Immortals, then this is going to be a good option for you. Overall, this character, while she may not be the greatest character that you could pick for this, if you do lack limited banner characters such as Boss Syndrome and Special Signature Fighters, she is definitely going to be in that tier down from those, and a good option overall. Now, undoubtedly, this is going to be where this character shines the most and has the most versatility, so I'm going to try and highlight as much as I can across all of these different difficulties. Against Omega Rugal in hard mode as a solo artist, Angel of Paradise Honoka is going to be able to one-key quite easily, so don't really worry about that. That's not something that she is going to have any trouble with. In Lunatic, however, she is going to be able to give you a reliable 2-key, and might even be able to push a 1-key with the proper RNG, but being the fact that she is going to be an attack type, this is going to mean that she's pretty squishy, so you're going to need to be very keen and very quick on your feet in order to dodge out on some of this damage. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of trouble keeping her alive in this mode. So I'm not going to say that you can easily 1-key with her, although I do think it's possible, especially if you have high enough fame. But really, with this character, if you're looking at her in solos against Lunatic, I would just consider her an easy 2-key, and that'll be something that'll treat a lot of players that missed out on a lot of limited banners very well. Now, if you're someone who prefers to use a full team comp whenever you're doing your guild raid runs, then you'll be happy to know that Angel of Paradise Honoka is going to make a wonderful addition to your team. Not only is she going to have Starlight for Lunatic difficulty, but she's also going to have wonderful shield shred against any of these modes, so that is going to mean that she is going to be able to help you out in multiple ways. Not only can she shred shield extremely fast, even faster than her SS counterpart, but she's also going to be able to offer the ability to be a character that you can use on awakening rotation with the shield down if you just need damage. So overall, this character, while not perfect, is going to make a awesome addition for you if you're someone who still does lack a lot of the limited banner characters. And really, the story remains the same here as we go through this review. This character is a character that you're going to definitely want to heavily consider if you missed out on limited banner characters as a step down option. Now, against Nightmare Geese, she does have limited ability to succeed here. Really, the only time that you're probably going to consider her is against hard difficulty for Nightmare Geese, being the fact that she does have Starlight. Now in this difficulty, as you can see, she is going to be able to easily one key clear this. There's really not much of a problem doing so. However, again, do keep in mind that being that she is an attack type, she is going to take a lot of damage very quickly, so you have to be very careful with her, and you have to time your dodge as well. But if you're able to do so, you shouldn't have many issues, and she'll be able to get the job done fairly easily. But overall, in Guild Raid, I think that this character is going to be one of the best overall options available to players that are going to be on a budget right now for Guild Raid. And really, if you're somebody that is still struggling to get those 2 boxes per difficulty per day, then you'll definitely want to heavily consider whether or not you want to invest in this character. Because if you do need help there, then I do think that this is probably going to be the best option that you're going to have for a while, unless they decide that they're going to rerun some of these characters in the future, but very good. So overall, Angel of Paradise Honoka is going to offer the most value to free-to-plays and budget players, as well as new players just getting into the game, but is definitely not a must-have for players that are veterans who might have a ton of these limited banner characters laying around. So in summary, this character is very strong, but she does depend on where you're at in the game currently. If you're someone who is a veteran that already has a lot of these limited banner characters, I do think that largely this is a character you can ignore, because mostly she's just going to be a reiteration of the things that you've already had access to, such as SS Kyo or Boss Syndrome Chrysalid, SS Mai, so on and so forth. So really you don't need this character if you already have those other characters, much less have those characters built up in any considerable way. However, if you are somebody who does lack those characters, or you're new to the game with this collaboration, then I do think that this is a character that is going to offer you a ton of value. As you saw in this video, she is not only going to be good against a plethora of different modes in PvE, but also she is going to be a Swiss Army knife for a lot of Guild Raid options. So I do think that this character is one that you're going to want to focus on if you need help in those regards. And definitely take a look at the Guild Raid section of this spotlight and kind of take a look at the different things that I was able to accomplish with her, and try to decide for yourself if you think she's worth the investment as a new or a free-to-play player, because as you can build her with those purple envelopes as opposed to needing duplicate memories for her in order to build her up, she is going to be a fairly cheap investment by comparison to an SS character. So she definitely is going to be warranted with the investment if you decide to go for her, but I do think that it really just comes down to where you're at in the game currently. But overall, an extremely good character, definitely not going to hit as hard as the SS variant, being the fact that again she does rotate a little bit slower and she doesn't have that extra long awakening rotation. But if you set those things aside, this character does have many perks that that other character does not, and overall it just comes down to what you're trying to accomplish. But that is going to be today's spotlight, you guys. I hope you all enjoyed it and found it informative. If there's anything else that you would like me to cover with this character, you can let me know, but I feel like this should at least give a lot of you guys out there, no matter where you're at in the game, a pretty good outlook on how this character performs. But with that being said, if you enjoyed the video and found it informative, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.
Continue.